character, and in the second book, it more or less starts with him. But
I'm Team Doug.
Doug is the guilty pleasure friend, where he's just a big, lovable guy that everything funny happens.
He's the best friend.
He's barely in the second book because the storyline doesn't happen in that town, but he is in it.
Good.
And there's a really funny story that Drew relives about Doug, because he's too much fun to not.
He was fantastic.
Everybody has that one friend that all
Yep.
the really dumb things happen to.
Yep.
Now,
Hey.
to be honest with you, unfortunately in my life that's me. I'm the dumb friend that if something really embarrassing and stupid's going to happen, it's the very first car my parents got that had power windows, front and back. My dad, we grew up poor, so we would go out for rides just because, hey, it breaks the monotony. Let's all get in the car. We're going for a random drive. So this car had power windows, and I'm in the back seat, window down, and we're going for a slow ride on a country road. I've got my head out the window looking around, and my dad, none. We were going really slow. But my dad had power windows, so he's playing with them from the driver's seat.
Shut your head in the window.
He shut my head in the window while we're driving down the road.
Dad, stop it!
My head was outside the glass. I'm like, and I panic. I don't say anything. I'm just kind of, and I'm scrabbling, hitting the back of the seat. And he's like, "Would you stop?" Oh my God. So if I seem oxygen deprived, there might be a reason for it.
Well, speaking of your second book, any news about that? You can share it?
The second edit is done.
Wonderful.
And I'll be honest with you, I signed a book contract 5 years ago in July with a publishing company that had split off from Penguin Books, which is a big-time publishing house. And it was a big deal, and the guy supposedly landed a contract with the people who own the bookstores in all the airports in this country. I'm having a brain fart moment. What's the name of the group? But they own all the airports, bookstores, and they ordered 50,000 copies of my first novel, and they had it in writing. And because I joined a split-off publishing company, the guy who started it because he's a frustrated former author himself, and he wanted to do a better deal for the authors, because mainline publishing companies pay 6% on average. So out of every dollar you spend on your book, the author actually gets
6 cents.
Yes, which is why it's hard for authors to make a living. This guy was doing a full 50-50 split after cost, which meant that if my book sold, the 50,000 copies that this group ordered, my check was $169,900 for my first novel. And the deal they supposedly signed, I have a copy that all 4 of my books were for that amount. And I got my first check, and it bounced. It was a fraud. It was after 6 months of cutting my performance schedule back to like 1 a month and writing full time and everything. It was a fraud. The guy had been kicked out of LA because he passed himself off as a director for one of the MTV reality shows. And so he was going to set parties and everything, and they finally caught him and kicked him out. And that was after he got kicked out of the anime convention circuit for running fraudulent conventions where he took everybody's money and then stiffed the hotels and the guests and all this. And I didn't know that. I did my homework on the guy. I talked to other voice actors and performers that had signed on with him.
Yeah.
And he ripped them off too. But it was horrible. And Todd Haberkorn, who's going to do the audiobook for my novel, actually took the book to a publishing company that was it was like $2 down from his recording studio and for the audiobook stuff, and showed it to them, and they wanted the book. They were interested in it. He had a second meeting with them. And if that one went well, I was flying out to do the third meeting and see, because I mean, we could make this happen anyway. And when he told the publishing company my story, they dropped the book and said, we're not touching it, because fraudulent publishing companies will do crap like that. And on the off chance that somebody does pick up a book, even though that company violated the terms of the contract and it was a fraud, they'll sue the actual publishing company and
get
tie
money
it
out of
up. And whether they make money or not, they cost the publishing company enough money that there's no profit in doing the book. So what they told him was, well, I'm sorry, have him write something else and contact us when that contract expires, even though they broke the contract, and I haven't even heard from the guy in 3.5 years. So July, the second week in July is actually, I think, when our contract expires. So Abomination will hopefully, it'll be out by the end of summer,
Wonderful.
and then we're shopping the third novel, which is unrelated. It's not the end of the trilogy. We're shopping the third novel. We have a meeting with Jim Butcher's agent in 2 weeks. Because we've talked with him. Does anybody know Jim Butcher? He wrote the Dresden Files and the Allura Codex. He's hugely successful. He's got 18 million books in print, and he's from St. Louis. So we're hoping that that works. Because right now, my novel is available at Barnes & Noble. You can order it, and if you spend $22.99 on that book, do you know how much my cut is?
Like $2.
Less. It's $1.
36.
It's either $1.36 or $1.38. So for the 1,000 books that have been ordered through Amazon, I've made enough money to pay our mortgage once.
Yeah.
So writing is a tough gig. It really is.
Unless you're one of those obscenely prolific authors that's spitting out books every month. It's ridiculous.
Or one of the, if you're a top 10 selling author, those guys get rich, but they get rich the same way. I mean, we went to Anime Blues. It's in Memphis, and one of the perks is they take you out to really cool places. We got to go to Graceland, where Elvis lived, and looking at his wall with the records that he sold and how fast he got to like 50 million copies of Hound Dog, and it was stunning. And they do such a huge job of marketing how rich Elvis got on his music. And you realize the record company is the one who put all that stuff up and is profiting off his name, because America made Elvis Presley a millionaire, but Elvis's work made that record company multi-billionaires, because Elvis still saw less than 10% of the revenue that he generated. And he had enough money that he had a jet that he flew from Memphis to Minnesota once, because his daughter had never seen snow before, and it was snowing in Minneapolis. So they got in the jet and flew up there,
Just to see
landed,
the snow.
and she played in the snow for 45 minutes, and then they flew back. That's a really popular story that's part of the tour at Graceland. And it's supposed to tell you all about the excess of his lifestyle. And the truth is, he had so much money in the bank that the interest that he was making from his bank account for that 3 hours, it didn't even touch the interest, that he'd made. But the record company is the one that made all the money. And so for as much money as Stephen King has, his publishing company has literally 20 times that. But Stephen King's one of the only authors that commands more than 7%, because he could walk into any publishing company in the world
They would probably follow
and give him whatever he wanted. Yeah. And who's the lady who wrote Harry Potter is the world's first billionaire author.
Yes.
And then she fell below $1 billion
Because charity.
because she'd given so much to charity that it took her down from just over $1 billion to 990 million temporarily.
Yeah.
And then it went back up over $1 billion. It's like, yeah, she did a great job donating to charity, 1/1000th of her income, and that's still a huge big deal. But it's like, it's just not like somebody giving his last dime to the homeless guy on the corner. But it's still amazing. But yeah, the publishing company is the huge thing. And it is 12:30. You know what that means?
Freedom!
You didn't come up with any good question. I mean, but you just made me talk. You had a good question. I just kept talking and talking. Yes, sir. You actually have a question?
Yes. My biggest thing is when I'm writing, when I go to reread what I wrote, I just it's just garbage and I just delete it. And I just keep doing that over and over again. No matter I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to put it aside, let someone else look at it before I do that. And if that doesn't happen, it's like, no, they're going to Is there, do you have any advice on how to get over that mental roadblock, or?
Yeah, and there's a couple things. And one of them is something that I actually don't do, but it's one that other writers really, really do. If you have that problem where you write something and you come back to it and you really don't like it and you want to let somebody else read it, join a writing group. They can be either a tremendous waste of time because it's a bunch of people who just want to sit around and talk about how wonderful they are, like any other social group, or they can actually be a wonderful support group that will help encourage you and keep you writing.